Good morning to everyone. My name is Khauhelo Mawana, as already introduced by the director of the ceremony. I come from the African Union Commission, the AFCFTA support unit. Apologies to our commissioner who couldn't make it to this event. Permanent Secretary, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, Ambassador James Manzo, all government officials here present, representative from UNECA and all UN agencies here present, representative from the business associations and the private sector in general, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure for the AFCFTA to be participating in this very important forum. I bring to you the best wishes from the AUC Commissioner, His Excellency Ambassador Albert Michanga, who is the Commissioner for Trade at the African Union Commission, and as I said, he could not make it to this occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, this forum is being held a couple of days before the extraordinary Summit of Heads of States and Government, which will be held in Niamey, Niger, on the 7th of July, 2019. The extraordinary summit will be preceded by a number of side events, starting on the 1st or the 3rd of July, and it will culminate with the AFCFTA Business Forum on the 6th of July, a day before the extraordinary summit. I hope that the private sector from Zimbabwe will actively participate in all those activities and gain from the advantages that such forums are presenting as part of the AFCFTA process across the continent. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start by congratulating the people in the government of Zimbabwe for having been part of the history of the African integration agenda, which has so far made and continues to make remarkable milestones. You'll recall that Zimbabwe was part of the negotiation process among all the 55 member states, and this led to a record signing of the AFCFTA agreement and its 3 protocols in Kigali in March 2018. At that summit, as already indicated, 44 heads of states and governments signed that agreement, and today we have 52 member states having signed that agreement out of 55 member states. And we are hoping that the 3 who are remaining, who are Benin, Eritrea, and Nigeria, will be coming on board so that the whole continent moves together in building this one African market. Secondly, we also congratulate you for having been the 23rd member state to ratify and deposit the instrument of ratification with the African Union Commission, who is the depository for the AFCFTA. We also received Burkina Faso as your younger brother, being the 24th. So we now have 24 member states who have deposited. We have deposited the instruments of ratification with the AUC. Ladies and gentlemen, let me now come back to the preparations for the 12th Extraordinary Summit to be held in Niamey on the 7th of July. That summit is dedicated to the launching of the operational phase of the AFCFTA. All legal instruments are in place. The agreement is now legally in place, and it came into force on the 30th of May 2019. It is anticipated that the private sector across the continent is ready to use the opportunities arising from the AFCFTA. Most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, the whole world is watching us as Africa. Any delays and failures in the operationalization of the AFCFTA will give credence to those who doubted us as Africans to integrate our economies, especially considering the speed with which we have traveled so far. At the same time, we are seeing multinational businesses already strategizing to take full advantage of the AFCFTA market. Some business delegations have visited the AU headquarters in Addis Ababa, making inquiries on how they can invest in this large market of Africa. We therefore urge the African businesses to take lead in trading in the AFCFTA market because this is your market. We cannot leave the outside operators to take lead in our own market. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, this brings now us to this forum. The theme for the forum is expanding industrialization and trade growth through the AFCFTA, And this is most aligned to the expectations that economies across Africa will transform as trade expands among member states. This AFCFTA National Forum is a critical step in preparing the private sector to do business in the AFCFTA. The AFCFTA is a framework for the business to be done, but we know governments don't do much business. The business is done by the private sector. We fully support the efforts by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade in putting together this forum and making sure that the private sector is involved in mapping out how you can benefit from this large market across the continent. The AUC is therefore recommending and urging member states to prepare the environment for trade to take place immediately. All the legal instruments that are required are in place. The first preparatory work that we are urging the member states to take is what you are doing today: stakeholder participation and sensitization in the AFCFTA. The second thing that we are looking at is domestication of the agreement. We know national laws require that before certain things are done, national laws should domesticate all those international agreements. We therefore urge that member states take all the necessary measures in time so that when trade is about to start, all the instruments are in place and the businesses will find the legal framework to operate. Thirdly, there is a number of documentation that will be required. The easier or the simplest examples are the certificates of origin. It is expected that member states would take measures in advance to print and make the documentation available for the business people to use and move their business across the continent. The fourth element, which is what will be discussed during this forum, I suppose, is the National Implementation Committee. The Summit of Heads of State and Government made a decision to say member states need to put in place implementation committees so that this doesn't become a redundant agreement, but we see the members states, the businesses in the member states really doing the business. We therefore hope that it is not a new thing to do, but there may be structures already in place which can take into consideration all the programs under the AFCFTA. We also urge member states to set up national contact points. There is an interim secretariat at the AFCFTA in the AU, headquarters in Addis Ababa. It is expected that when the business starts, there will be a contact point in every member state so that from the interim secretariat to the trading member states, there will be some contact so that we facilitate the movement of goods as we start. There cannot be any chance to allow impediments because any failure in the early consignments across the AFCFTA will send bad signals to the trading community. We therefore request that you put in place those contact points so that the AFCFTA trading system can take off with a lot of success. The sixth item is again a preparatory issue to do with the customs management systems and procedures. We know that the goods have to be cleared through the borders, and therefore the customs procedures are very critical to be prepared in advance so that we see the goods moving across the border instead of being stuck at the borders at the very start of the AFCFTA trading times. And lastly, it is about capacity building. We all are aware that our economic operators, customs officials, and other government agencies are involved in this AFCFTA business. Therefore, their capacity to operate is very essential, and we urge member states to do all they have to do to ensure that those operators and customs officials are ready. The Commission has already put forward a post-implementation plan, which is being considered by your negotiating institutions when they meet. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, the AUC is very grateful for the inputs of the regional economic communities, your RECs. We know you are part of COMESA, you are part of SADC, and we are taking on board their support. They have worked with us all the way in the CFTA. We also appreciate the work being done by our partners. UNECA is here today leading on this process of the national strategy. We really appreciate their work because as the AUC, we may not be able to do everything. So we cooperate with our partners, and we also thank the ministry for having put together this event because it is one of those initiatives that are encouraged. Even the heads of state, when they meet, it is one of the recommendations that always come out. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much for your attention.